Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode of the Endless Celts podcast. I hope everyone's keeping well who's listening. I'm delighted today to be joined by my co-host again, John. How are you, John?
I'm good, mate. Glad to be back.
We're glad to have you back. I mean, you were on the sidelines for a while, but as I said in the post, a hard week in training, you're back in with the graft. And we're also delighted to be joined by a regular on the show, Ross. How are you, Ross?
Not bad, Stephen, yourself?
I'm fine. Just chilling out here with you guys, having a wee bit of a rant about the club we all love, Celtic Football Club. And we'll move on to the first topic of the day, which we've talked about, and I know a lot of people are getting fed up with the whole rumour mill and the whole speculation around the manager position, but it's unfortunately a subject that we as Celtic fans can't really ignore, as the silence out of the club is definite at the moment, and people just don't know where the next thing's coming from. You get Twitter accounts making up rumours and people jumping on it straight away, so we'll just go on to what we actually do know. And I'm calling this the managerial bus. People seem to hop on and hop off anytime they want to. We've seen Jesse Marsh come out say it's an honour to be linked to the job. Next day, he was not interested again. He just wanted to get his name out there to the press. But we've seen this morning an interesting one. Favre, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, he's managed the likes of Borussia Dortmund, Mönchengladbach and Nice. And Thierry Henry has been linked with the job. Well, he said he's interested in regards to talking to Celtic. He's been previously at Monaco and Montreal Impact in America. Now, for me, before I go to you guys, Henry for me is just one of them names again. It's profile over the coach. It's just a name to come to Celtic to get himself back out there again and hopefully make that move to another club, either in the Premier League or a top 5 league around the world anyway. I don't think his credentials stack up, a bit like Roy Keane. They don't stack up for me in terms of what he's done in the game. World-class player, fantastic at Arsenal, Barcelona as well, so we can't fault them there. And in terms of Favre, I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about this fella, but I read up a wee bit on him today. He's managed Dortmund, and I think he led them to 15 straight wins in his first spell in charge, or when he took over anyway. Unfortunately, he got let go just before Christmas due to a string of bad results. But he seems to have experience, the likes of Mönchengladbach, and he's managed in Ligue 1 in France with Nice. So I'll go to you, John, first. What did you think when you seen Favre? For me, anyway, I had to read on him, but does he excite you?
Much. I'm just like yourself, Stephen. I didn't. I mean, I'd heard his name, but I knew nothing about the guy really. So I had to do a bit of reading up on him as well. Obviously, if you're going into a club like Dortmund and Mönchengladbach, you must have something about you, because they're not just in the habit of hiring anybody. So the fact that he's got that under his belt, regardless of what his results are, obviously proved to be a good thing. But again, this is just another name, and it's just another guy putting his name out there who's some random person's asked him about the job. He's made a comment and people are running with it, and it's the same way just about everybody. Like I said weeks ago, when Lennon left initially, we had this conversation as well, and it's like literally everybody is going to get linked to this job. If they're not in a job, they're going to get linked. If they are in a job, they're going to get linked. It's no something that's, like you said at the start of the show, it's no something that seems to be going away. And because of the lack of clarity coming for Celtic Football Club, it's just us as fans are just kind of left in limbo, and we everybody's just, it's just all rumours and assumptions and all sorts, and it's absolute madness. But I mean, I just want them to get the finger out. So I don't know too much about the guy, that Favre guy. So I mean, I can't really say whether or not it excites me. It definitely would be preferred over the likes of a Keane, Kennedy, and even Henry. Like you say, it's just another name. He's not done anything in management that excites me. As a player, he was absolutely fantastic. And the only real upside I see in terms of him being a manager at Celtic is maybe the influence he has in bringing people in. Certain types of players might come and play for him just because of who he is. But that's no. I want a manager who's got a bit of experience about him, who he's actually accomplished something in the game, and has that managerial heed and isn't just relying on his name to get him by.
Yeah, I mean, another thing as well, Henry's remembered for that famous handball against Ireland that kind of cost Ireland a chance at a major tournament. So I don't know if a lot of fans would get behind the types of Henry. But I don't know, Ross. For me, the likes of these managers throwing their hats into the ring like every other day, it just points to a lot of mismanagement from Celtic at the moment, because they should be coming out saying they've got their shortlist. They've got 5 names. They're interviewing all 5 names. Who performs the best gets the job. And that's the way it should be in any walk of life anyway. But you look at it now, and they've had so long to come out and tell us what's happening. Give us a time scale even to the end of the season. Just let us know John Kennelly's just there as temporary in charge. But there's none of that. And I don't know about you, Ross, but I'm kind of fed up with it now.
Oh, I mean, I said just before we came on to you, I'm absolutely sick of it. I'm just sick of the rumour mill at this point. I feel it's getting to the stage where it's becoming embarrassing. I mean, like you've said, there's so many questions, so little answers. I mean, you could look at it like it's taking so long. Is it due diligence? Are they dragging their heels again? Are there 2 so-called final candidates who it looks to be keen and how? Are they needing convinced to come? If so, why? You could go on all night. We'll never know. But I mean, the length of time it's taking is becoming, it's absolutely infuriating, to be perfectly honest. And at this point, the time scale to me looks to be way beyond due diligence stage. I think it just seems like they're dragging their. I just can't put my finger on it. We've said that before. There's no contact between the fans and the club. I mean, we're looking at the last few days. You've heard rumours that Keane was going to be announced. Then it was Howe the day. Then there was the thing with Laxalt, which now looks like it's probably been some dubbed nonsense. So we're no further forward that I can see than when Lennon walked out the door. So it's really getting on my goat, to say the least now.
I can hear it in your voice quite clearly, Ross. To be honest, I mean, I've seen a whole lot of Celtic fans on Twitter, Instagram, any social media platform, and they're just wanting clarification. And as you said, it's embarrassing that other managers throughout the world can just find it okay to throw their name in and get their profile up again, because Celtic aren't really coming out and saying, look, we're not wanting these guys. We're not interested in these people who are coming in every day saying we're interested in talking to Celtic. We've got a short list made up by bookies. I mean, I've read down a quick one while I've been on the podcast here. I've got Kennedy, Howe, Keane, Martinez, Lampard, and Steve Clark. And for me, maybe Howe, Martinez, and maybe Clark, that could be acceptable. I don't know about you, John, but where are you of all this in regards to the silence as well coming from Celtic?
It baffles me. I mean, like he says, I mean, Aberdeen being the prime example, they got rid of McInnes within a matter of days. They had a statement out, and then days after that, they had a manager signed. And now he's already at work bringing in his team, as we know about Brown leaving. And it was quick. They were clear and transparent with the fans. And you got to wonder why a club like us can't do the same. And like I said, we've touched on this before. Laura mentioned it on the previous podcast, and a few other boys that have been on it have mentioned that it's the same thing. Nobody's saying come out and tell us a name of people you're interviewing. We're not asking for that level of detail, but just say something. Come out and let us know. We have interviewed candidates, have been approached, and whatever the case may be, just let us know something's actually happening. But the silence is deafening, and the fact that, as Ross said, there we're no further forward. It's frustrating, and like you mentioned there, Twitter is rife now with rumours, and all it takes is a prominent Celtic fan on Twitter with a bit of a following to mention a name, and it all kicks off. Websites start reporting on it, podcasts start talking about it, people then start placing bets. That drives the odds down, and it's just absolute chaos at the minute. I don't think there's anything in majority of it, to be honest. A lot of it, I guess, is just paper talk as well, like just them drumming up news to sell papers and whatever else. But I mean, just going back to it, the only thing that gives me sort of any peace of mind, and not necessarily surrounding Keane, but with the Howe thing, is that there's a saying that there's no smoke without fire, right? So you have to think, we know how his name's been touted. We know through previous people close to him that he might have been contacted. We don't know what stage that got to or where we are with that. But I'd like to think that we're maybe in touch with these guys, and I'm hoping that it's true, because I would really like us to just announce how as soon as possible and get it our way, and let them start spending the rest of the season try to figure out what needs to change and everything else, and obviously the massive rebuilding project whoever comes in is going to have in their hands. Just give the guy time.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, if you rewind it back right before Christmas, there around October time, we knew Celtic were just hanging on to threads for the season to finish well. Like, for me, I don't know about you guys, but it seems like the board kind of relied on the season going perfect and then doing the transition, getting away with what they're getting away with now, like the no communication side of things. They should always have a succession plan, and if something goes wrong, and yes, it was a 10-in-a-row season, maybe they don't want to bring a manager in too early, so he would be blamed on the catastrophe that was seen. But Lennon with time was done for me well before Christmas, and you look at the names on the list. Eddie Howe's been out of work since last year. Farve, the former Borussia Dortmund manager, has been out of work since December. Now, I know he's only threw his name into the ring now, but if these guys are available, can you not just go, how do you feel about coming up, taking us forward for a couple of years, 3 or 4 years? There's a plan, bring in a director of football. But as you said, John, as well, Aberdeen done it within a couple of days. They let their fans know what is actually happening. And we have to rely on people putting up things like Eddie Howe was seen in the Tesco car park outside Gallagher. Something random like that. And as you said, people do bet on it. And I think it's a part of hope, because people want to believe things like that. People want to see things online from big following pages that they want to believe, they want to hang on to, because we've got no communication from the club. Dominic Mackay, we know, is the only certified coming in as a replacement for Peter Loyal. The director of football is rumoured to be Harkin, but again, no communication. I don't understand why they haven't approached David Webb. I mean, that guy was fantastic when we had him on. You look at back to the scouting department. Nicky Hammond's meant to be leaving, so there's another place we need to fill. Ross, if I said to you, here's the keys to the Celtic boardroom. I'm putting you on the spot for this, right? But here's the keys to the Celtic boardroom. There's 3 decisions you have to make: manager, director of football, and recruitment. What way would you go about that? Just do it quickly and get it done with?
Aye, well, I mean, if it's viable to do that, I mean, it's not something I'm experienced in, but so I can't really say for sure. But I mean, the first thing that I would do is find out or try and make Eddie Howe my manager if possible. Celtic might have tried to do that. He might be holding out for a job in the Premier League. If that's the case, then move on. If didn't wait to see if he's going to get a job in the Premier League and then think, oh, he'll take us as his second choice. I just really don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. It's not my job. I'm glad it's not my job, but I don't think it's MD's job at the minute, because there's bloody nothing happening.
It's a strange one as well. Like, if you look at it, the importance of the Champions League qualification, you need to then get that money. Also, the league has automatic entry next year if you win it to the Champions League. And I don't know if you guys seen today, they've agreed the new Champions League format for 2024. So this is all big clubs now are going to be in this Champions League, regardless if they win a trophy or if they win a league in their country, just depending on coefficient scores and stuff. Now, John, going forward, looking towards these qualifiers, I mean, from now, obviously the timescale we've had to appoint a new manager, which we've failed to do so, can you see anything that lets you know that we're going to get this done and get the rebuild done straight away? Because Celtic are notorious for signing players late on in windows and kind of playing Beaton as a makeshift centre half, and you just don't know where it's going.
Well, I mean, I might be wrong in this. My timescales might be up, but we've got 3 months before qualifiers start, 3-4 months, or something like that before the qualifiers start. Now that is not long enough to get a guy in, get him integrated into the club, get him to see what needs to be changed. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation about guys that might be outgoing, and obviously replacing them. So we know the rebuild could potentially be massive, and I don't think it's enough time to get any. This should have been done a long time ago, and we should have had the guy in the door. And one of the other things that really sort of pissed me off is we're still approaching players, we're still rumoured with players, we're still signing. Who's making these decisions? And you go to think any manager looking at the club and they're still like they're signing players, and it's like maybe a guy coming in is like, I don't want this player at the club, or I don't rate this player and whatever else, and I don't know who's making the decisions in terms of signings and everything else. But the qualifiers at this point, as you say, is it's important that we get ourselves in that position. But I just don't have any faith that we're going to have a guy and give him enough time. And like you go back, and we should have done this before Christmas. It should have been done months ago. He should have had ample time to get everything sorted and to have a look at the squad, see what players might be leaving, and give them the chance to evaluate and get guys in. 3 months isn't long enough. Nowhere near long enough, regardless of who's coming in.
I mean, the thing that I'm holding on to on that front, John, and it's like just hope and beyond hope, is that Rodgers came in after Dyla later on than this, and he got us to qualify for the Champions League. He had less time, but I'm obviously fully aware that there's going to be a bigger turnaround of players. We're up against a stronger Rangers this time. So it's going to be more difficult probably for the new manager coming in. Hence, he needs more time. But, I mean, Martin O'Neill came in. I think that, if I remember right, that was quite late on. And he followed the Barnes and Dalglish era. And he turned it around pretty quick. So, I mean, it can be done pretty quick. It's no unheard of. But theoretically, it's not what you want to do.
No,
but I mean, it can be done if you're willing to back the manager, give him the finances, and you get the right manager in who knows what he's doing and has been over the course and has built teams and not necessarily won trophies, but like say we how built teams, done well with teams. So it's no unheard of that you can turn things around in a short space of time with the right
I mean.
But no, I'm not disagreeing with you completely. I hear you, and theoretically, it's not the way you want to be doing it, but it can be done.
No, I do agree, Ross, and I mean, like you say, it's Rodgers and O'Neill were examples of that. But you also, as you mentioned as well, I think this year, the level of rebuild and the amount of turnaround that potentially has happened is the biggest thing, and and like you say, it's hope, and you'd like to think that whoever coming in, maybe they've even already got a shortlist. Maybe they're already having a look, and we're just waiting on things getting ironed out, or they're waiting for a specific time to announce it and think that the wheels are already in motion. Again, this comes back to the lack of clarity for the club and not letting anybody else know. All we can do is speculate and assume this and assume that, and it creates a lot of debate, and there's a lot of people that we know that are pro Keane and everything else, and then there's a lot of people that aren't, and it's just the club themselves need to just do something. And what's it the fact that they're getting ever closer to the season renewals for season tickets, and as it stands at the minute, I think there was a poll out recently that stated a lot of people might not renew due to the fact that there's a lack of things, communication for the club, and based on this season and how poorly the Celtic TV carry on that Pass to Paradise stuff for season ticket holders has been. The people are a bit like, well, why should we fork out £600 for another season? And when you don't even have the decency to come out and tell us where we stand as a club, essentially. And they've got every right to, absolutely.
Sorry.
It's more like past the shite, isn't it? That Past the Paradise is an absolute scandal. I mean, I think they promised one commentary team throughout the season, and it switched so many times, and they end up with Mark Smith for the last Glasgow Derby game. Like, he wasn't even a part of the whole lineup at the start of the season when it got sold to the fans. But just to bring it back a wee bit, you both made interesting points in regards to the time scales, and Ross, you think it can be done, but you also have to factor in as well, the Euros is going on. So who are we targeting? Who are we trying to sign? And you have to think, these players in the Euros, a lot of them will be in the shop window, but can Celtic afford that range? And then you look at the players, as John rightly touched upon, who are coming in at the moment, like Kyle Joseph, a young player from Wigan, Liam Smith, a young player from Sheffield Wednesday. Is this the type of market we're going to be finding ourselves in, where we're trying to buy cheap for long-term gain? Do you think that's it?
Sorry, Stephen. Just to touch on that about these guys coming in. I think whoever's making the decisions, these are like project players, much like the likes of Luke O'Connell and all them were. It's like we're bringing these young guys in, hoping that they can do something and loan them out, maybe and looking for resale value, and using the name Celtic's name as a stepping stone for these guys to come up. There's no guarantee they're going to get a place in the team. Whoever comes in, he's going to have his own ideas in place. He's going to want to pick his own team, build his own team. So these guys are coming up on essentially false promises. What is it we're sort of, what kind of carrot essentially are we dangling in front of guys at the minute to convince them to come up when we're in the position that we're in? I just don't get it.
I don't understand it either. And Ross, come to bring it back to Roy Keane as well. Now, I've heard a lot of speculation that Desmond wants Roy Keane and he's sold on Roy Keane. He wants him, but the board, in terms of the decision making, aren't happy with that. And also you've seen a lot of ex-players or pundits saying that Desmond's kind of lost interest in Celtic Football Club, which I tend to agree with. Do you think the hold-up here is Desmond isn't getting his number one and the board wants someone else in?
It's beginning to seem more and more like it. I mean, I said previously that I really, really don't want Roy Keane. I still really, really don't want him. I've slightly warmed to him a wee bit, the idea, when I heard that it was going to be like Nicky Butt coming in with him. But I mean, it's only like a couple of degrees I've warmed. Like, I'm still a million miles away from wanting him to be Celtic manager. I don't think he can be. And if Dermot Desmond thinks that is in the best interest of Celtic, then I think it's time for him to move on, because he doesn't do a lot for us anyway.
No.
I mean, he's obviously not going to, because he enjoys using Celtic as his wee toy, I think, at times. But we're just going round and round in circles. I think I'd said previously that Howe wasn't my number one choice, and over the last number of weeks, I have argued with people that he's not the same calibre as Rodgers. I think many can disagree with that.
We've had the argument, Ross.
I know. But don't get me wrong, I still think he's a very, very good manager. And he is in the Rodgers mould. We've touched on that previously. But I would say that Eddie Howe is my number one choice now. And how you can be sitting there is Dermot Desmond. And if you've got the choice between Roy Keane or Eddie Howe, if that is in fact our final two, if you like, that we're down to, I don't know again. But if that's your choice, if you're sitting there arguing with the rest of the board that you want Roy Keane and you're holding everything up, then you can piss off. Because that's not even. It's not even they shouldn't even be mentioned in the same breath as regards being a manager.
No.
It's just madness. If that's the argument they're having, it just doesn't make sense.
Is that your feeling, John, in terms of Dermot Desmond at the minute?
Aye, absolutely. And I've said for years that Desmond's done none. I mean, I'm not sure. Obviously, all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, none of it, but for the outside looking in, like Ross says, it's just a wee hobby for him. It's just a wee side thing. I mean, you've got one of the richest guys in the country, a billionaire, as a majority shareholder of your team, and this is the kind of games he's playing. He's just he wants to hire his pals. There's a lack of clarity. He's playing about, like, the fans deserve better than that. And it's the fact that he's treating the club the way he is at the minute just shows me that I don't know what his opinion on Celtic is. He claims to be a Celtic man and everything else, and obviously with the level of investment he's got in terms of his shares in the club, it's in his best interest from a business perspective to keep the club operating successfully. So I just don't get it. I don't understand it at all.
But I mean, all that said, if he gets, whether it be Keane or whoever, if he gets the right man in, and he spent however long, and he's maybe argued, if he gets the right man in and we're sitting this time next year and we've won the league, and maybe one cup doesn't need to be a treble, all is forgiven, Dermot. Do you know what I mean? But at the moment, it's really, really grinding on everybody, and we just need clarity. Just clarity, and that is it.
And I would agree with that. Like, see if he actually shows us as Celtic fans, if he's willing to pull out the stops in order to make something happen. Like, didn't the whole Keane thing pursue that when it's very well documented at this stage that the majority of Celtic fans are no pun intended, but they're not keen on it. And it's a case of Howe has been the out and out favourite for among Celtic fans for a number of years. It's like, listen to what the Celtic supporters are saying. They want clarity. They want you to get an experienced guy in, somebody with that sort of pedigree. And it's like, fork out, go and dip into your own pocket. Like, do something to try and turn the fans around and get them excited again. And then if it works and we go in and win the league, we win the league back, which I'm confident we will do anyway. But it's a case of, like, just show the fans that you actually care, because as it stands at the minute, he's not doing anything to a guy that cares about the club. Do you know what I mean? It's just...
That's exactly the way I feel, because Dermot Desmond, I've said it before on other podcasts, but he actually hasn't invested his own money into Celtic in years. He's been more reliant on the income coming in from outside sources and sponsorship deals and TV deals, and also the odd transfer fee to keep Celtic sufficient and going forward in the transfer market. But this season, I don't think he can rely on that, because the income's dropped. I think, what was it, 18 million or something we lost out on, and it needs investment. Celtic need a major investment if they're going to rebuild this squad, because we've seen Christopher Ryer being linked with Newcastle for only £8 million, and clubs are going to chance their luck. And yes, granted, we chance our luck as well with certain players in the SPFL and other low league clubs around Europe, but I mean, more the fact that the English Premier League are trying to sign our top quality players for £8 million is quite, it's a daunting thing, and it's a reality that maybe we'll have to become more accustomed to, especially going forward if we're entering more lockdowns or the fans can't get into stadiums. And I just think, as you said, Ross, if he's not interested, move on, give the shares over to somebody else who wants to invest money. And the second biggest shareholder in the Celtic Football Club is someone called Mark Train, and he's a property investor. Do you know what I mean? It's like a capital investment for some people now, and it shouldn't be like that. It should be a club that's run by people who love it. I want to see it go forward. Much across, like the other city, I don't like to compare, but they've got money coming in left, right, and centre. No one knows where it's coming from. But the less we say about that, the better. But moving on to Diego Laxalt, just touching upon it quickly. He did actually put an Instagram story out saying that he misquoted or misread the text that he read to say, no, he's going to meet Eddie tomorrow. He thought he meant Alden Edward, the person who said that. So I'll go to you, John. When I seen that last night, yes, it got me a bit excited, but obviously you think about it and yeah, blah, blah, blah. You probably thought it was Eddie because they all call him Eddie in the Celtic squad as far as we know anyway. But again, for me, not to go back to it, if he's quick enough to come out and say that was totally wrong, where is Celtic Football Club and that's coming out telling us what we want to know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I've heard different reports about this video being an old video that's been dubbed over, and just somebody putting on a shite accent, kidding on to be Laxalt and answering the question. And like you say, there was a possibility as well, given, I mean, his English probably isn't the best, and if that's the case, then asking him a question like that, he's misinterpreted, and he could well have meant Edward. Or you could turn around and say, well, he's had to come out and say that because the club have picked up and tell him to keep his mouth shut, and he's had to backtrack on it. I mean, there's a number of things you could say, but the fact of the matter is, we shouldn't be relying on players to slip up and come out with things or anything else. It's the club's responsibility, and they need to come out and do something. And we're going to keep coming back to this.
Yeah, I mean, when I seen it, like I thought it. At the time, I have to admit, I thought there was some substance to it, but obviously through the evening and waking up that morning or next morning of when it happened, you could just tell it was fake. And he came out in fair play. He did say that he misinterpreted it, but also a good point thrown in there, John. It could be the club saying, keep your mouth shut. We don't want people knowing right now. But at the end of the day, just moving on from that anyway, all we're wanting is a bit of clarity and a bit of forward thinking from the board at Celtic Football Club to let us know what's going on. But moving on to Scott Brown. Now, there's a lot of interesting debates surrounding Scott Brown. Just something really funny. I think Shay Logan went and loaned to Hearts. He seems to be shitting it already, but I don't know what that's all about. But yeah, so Scott Brown announced that he's leaving, and Ross, I haven't got your opinion on it and stuff. So how did you feel when you seen the news break that Scott Brown was leaving?
I was tinged with disappointment. Don't get me wrong. I think as a mainstay in the Celtic team, his race is almost run. But I would have liked to have seen him stay on at the club in a similar capacity what Aberdeen have taken him on. But I mean, I can totally understand. There's so much uncertainty at Celtic now. They don't know what nobody knows who the manager's going to be. So they can't offer Scott Brown anything concrete as such because the new manager come in and say, I don't want you. So I think Scott Brown, fair play to the guy, he's got to look after number one. He's got a family. He needs to make sure he's got a job, if you like. I know he's probably a bit more comfortable than most, but he still needs to earn. And I think for Scott Brown, doing the role at Aberdeen he's been offered, I think is a great opportunity for him, one he probably couldn't say no to. I think it's been a timing thing. I think if we had a manager in place, I think that manager would have wanted to have Scott Brown at the club in a similar capacity. I think it would have been a no-brainer for a new guy, especially if he's not got any Celtic connection. It would have been a no-brainer for to have him alongside him and still offering a bit part as a player. But I mean, he goes with my best wishes, and I hope he can someday come back to the club because he's totally synonymous with Celtic now, and it's going to be absolutely weird to watch him lining up against us next season. It's going to be so surreal. But I just want to thank him for everything he's done for the club, and he's given a big chunk of his life, and he's been absolutely exemplary as a captain and outstanding as a player in the 14 years. So thanks, Scott Brown. Excellent.
I think you pretty much nailed that there, Ross, in terms of what he's brought to the team. What about yourself, John? What feelings were through you when you heard that Scott Brown was leaving, and now that you had time to reflect on it, do you think maybe Celtic could have kept him in a coaching role?
Just to echo everything that Ross says. He pretty much hit the nail on the head. Literally every remark he made there, I agree with, and feel the exact same way about. What was that?
I says thanks.
But I mean, it obviously he's given like 14 years of his life to Celtic. He's been outstanding for the club. He's been an outstanding player. He's been an outstanding ambassador. Obviously, he's had these moments a wee bit hot-headed, but he kind of calmed down as he got older. He's learned from his earlier mistakes as well, and he is the kind of guy that you'd expect Celtic to want to keep a hold of, not just for in terms of his playing, because I think, like Ross says, that's coming to an end, and I think we can all see that. I mean, he's probably still got another year or two left in him, but at a decent level. But we can't rely on him the same as we used to. But from a coaching perspective, having him run the guys, having that sort of that mentality, that sort of leadership, the influence, and especially bringing new guys in as well. And I think William and Anthony touched on this on the podcast on Friday, saying the exact same thing. And it's like these are the kind of guys you want running about the club when you're bringing new guys in to say, look, this is a massive club and everything else. And because he's lived it, he's breathed it. He knows exactly what it's like to be there. He's played all-time leading European games and everything else. It's like that's the kind of guy you want. Try to tell people this is the best club to play for, and to stop using it as a stepping stone and getting them to buy into what the club is. And we all know it is. So I firmly agree with everything Ross said. It goes with my best wishes as well. It's going to be really weird seeing him lining up against us. I hope he does come back in the future in some capacity. But yeah, I mean, I would like to have seen us do more to keep him in.
Yeah, I mean, I've said myself in previous podcasts that I believe his time as a player or starting every week was coming to an end. And yes, I've said that I wouldn't be too disheartened to see him go, and I still kind of stick with that. But obviously, when the news broke, you do feel a bit disheartened from it, especially as you said, John. There's kind of no direction coming from the club, and another part of me as well that I said on the podcast. Maybe he's got a whiff of the new management team, and he doesn't like it, and that's why he's kind of up and left. And there's a lot of speculation, and only Scott Brown will know, as we pointed out in the last podcast. But yeah, again, he goes with our best wishes, and just touching upon him leaving and the hole and void he's going to leave within Celtic. Obviously, the captain role will be up for grabs next season. Ross, I'll go to you. In my head, there's a couple of people you consider for it. Maybe Ayer, Julian, when he's fit and available, McGregor. I don't think Forrest could be a captain because I don't know. He just seems to be the quiet type. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the dressing room, he's probably a bit more loud, a bit more opinionated. But on the pitch, he doesn't seem like that. What do you think, Ross? Who could be the next captain of Celtic Football Club?
You pretty much kind of covered it with me there. I mean, in an ideal world, you would like it to be Forrest or McGregor. Obviously, Forrest has been an unbelievable servant for Celtic. But like you said, I don't think. Well, certainly not Forrest. He's definitely not captain material in my eyes. He's, as you say, he's not vocal enough on the park. McGregor, again, I don't think he's captain material. He's not. It doesn't seem a big enough character. I mean, looking at the current squad, Ayer would be the obvious choice. But the question is, will he be there next year? So I mean, if he goes, then I think the only one that you could really say looks like he could be a captain is Big Julian. I think he gets it. He gets the club, and he's he's here. He's on a long-term contract, I think, and I think that you'd be looking to build the defence around him next year. So I mean, with the current squad, you would say Julian, but then if we get a new manager in, or when we get a new manager in, like, please God, don't be John Kennedy, but if that new manager comes in, he might have a guy who he knows well, he's worked with, and is a ready-made captain. So I mean, that could happen. But if Ayer goes, then Julian. If both of them stay, then it could be up for grabs with either of the two of them. A bit of me would like it to go to a Scot. But I mean, you look around that squad now, and there's no leaders. There's been no leaders all season. Ayer, like, I don't know whether he wants to be at Celtic or no, but when he's on the park, he looks like he cares, and he's a big character. You can see him talking all the time in the park. So I would like it to go to him if he stays. But I mean, him or Julian probably is the only two.
I think Ross, you made a great point. If you look around that squad, there's no leaders. Do you know what I mean? Maybe, as you said, touching upon Ayer and Julian, but again, that's a big problem running through Celtic at the moment. We've lost their biggest leader, Scott Brown, and now we're looking around going, shit, we actually don't have any natural leaders in that team. And Christopher Ayer, to be fair, is only 21, 22. So, yeah, granted, he was a captain at a young age in Norway of a team, but that doesn't mean automatically he should be a captain of Celtic, especially at that age. The pressure might get too much in regards to him playing. But yeah, the only natural successor you can really see is Ayer or Julian. Julian, me trying to be French, Julian. But yeah, John, what about yourself? Is there any left field shouts that you thought of, or is it just them two, really?
Yeah, no, pretty much. Like you said, there's nobody at the club at the minute where you could say he's a leader. He's the kind of guy you'd want to lead the club as a captain. And whoever does come into that role's get absolutely massive boots to fill. And I mean, it's going to be. You could just hand it about at this stage. I don't think it's going to matter. McGregor tends to be one name that jumps out because he's taken the armband a few times when Scott's not been playing. So he seems like the most natural successor in that respect. But Ayer this season has been the only player in a Celtic jersey really that I've seen with any sort of passion. And like Ross says, you see him, he shows, he looks like he cares. Whether or not he wants to be there or not is another matter. But for the duration, or for the time being rather, he's there. He's wearing the jersey, and he's playing, and he's passionate about it. He wants to win, and you can see that in him. Like, I think he's probably the best candidate for it, and that's assuming we even keep him. But that aside, Julian's another shout. And if you're looking for guys going forward and guys to build around going forward, then I mean, in terms of left field shouts or anything like that, Turnbull maybe. He looks like a guy who you could build a team around, command the middle of the park, and he looks like somebody who's got a bit of fight about him. And I think as time goes on and his career at Celtic, we'll start to see more of that.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets took off at the 60th minute, he looks fed up already. He might want to leave. You never know. But
I think it's just, but that'd be born of frustration though, because the guy's been absolutely phenomenal for us since he came in.
Yeah.
And again, this comes down to poor management, because he's getting subbed off, and I don't know how these guys on the scene, what we as fans are seeing, because it's you're like, what are you doing? Every time you watch a game and then he gets subbed off, you're just asking yourself why. What can he? What?
Do you think Strachan's laptop? Do you think Strachan's laptop pings or something? The alert comes up on the screen. Take David Turnbull off in the 60th minute. Don't forget. That's the way it looks. That's the way it looks sometimes, because when he's playing well, it's fair enough. Some of the games previously he's had a quiet game, but the whole team have. And he's one of them players. If you keep on, he can make a difference. He can score a goal from outside the box, or play one of them passes over the top of a defender's head for a striker to run onto. And it's taking him off the 60th minute, obviously, but that's for a totally different show. But in terms of Brown leaving and the hole that's going to leave, and even in the middle of the park and in the dress room and around Lennoxtown and stuff, it's going to be massive. And as you rightly pointed out, John, you need them type of players to show what Celtic means, what a privilege it is to put on that green and white jersey. That's the way every player that steps onto that field should feel. And you're 100% right. In terms of stepping stone, Russell Boyce, when he was on, referred to us as a stepping stone FC. That's what it feels like at the moment. You're signing these players, selling the future of them down to England if they give us 2 or 3 years of good service. That's not the way it should be, especially going forward. We need players who want to play. And if that means more British and Irish-based players, so be it. The names don't have to be fancy. You just have to look back to the time when we had Barry Robson and Paul Hartley in midfield. They did the job. I mean, they worked their socks off and got us a few good results, even in Europe. Barry Robson scored against Barcelona and stuff. But that's the type of players you want to play for Celtic, homegrown talent. And the foreign players to me sometimes are only there, and we've rightly pointed out, just to get a move, score a couple of goals and look good on the TV cameras. But looking at the squad, just briefly, Ross, I'll run through a few names to you. So we've got Scott Bain, Barkas and Hazard, the goalkeepers. Is that an area which is pretty obvious we need to strengthen in the summer?
Aye, absolutely, aye. I think if I was the new manager, I'd come in, I would get rid of Barkas straight away, address it immediately. And if I'm Eddie Howe, I'm going for a trusted performer. Eddie Howe equals Asmir Begovic, just get it done. And Scott Bain can be the number 2, or Hazard, 2 and 3, whatever way you want to do it. But I think Scott Bain can't ever be our number 1. I don't think Connor Hazard can ever be our number 1. And Barkas just shouldn't be at the club. I just want him out the door. Good luck to him, but not bye, and just get a good goal.
Bye.
A good goal. If that's the nicest way I can put it. Sorry, he's totally. He's just Stuart Kerr.
Oh my!
A poor man, Stuart Kerr. He's absolutely horrendous, and I don't know what is this to ever find him.
So you're thinking Begovic to come in with Eddie Howe? That would be a good shout. I'm still of a belief there is a keeper in Barkas. A lot of people just think I'm bonkers when I say that, but I think there is a keeper in there. And if you get the right team in, the right management team, because you have to factor in as well, he's came from a team in Greece, AEK Athens. He played the team that beat us and knocked us out. So he wasn't that bad that night. I know Celtic didn't really have much chances in goal, but they still got through, didn't it? And if he was that bad, we would have targeted him with through balls and stuff like that, but we didn't. He seems like I think there is a keeper. Ross is probably laughing under his breath at me right now, but I think there's a keeper in there, and I would keep Barkas. I would get rid of Bain. I would keep Hazard about. I think there's a good keeper in Hazard, especially for the future. He started for Northern Ireland last night, and by all accounts, he did okay. There was the penalty kick he should have saved with Pulisic, but I mean, they make mistakes and stuff. He's a young keeper. But I've circled a few names here. John, I'm going to come to you for this, right? So, Ayer, Rodriguez, Edward, Ayeti, Christie, Neesham, Bayo, Sved, Griffiths, and then the lone players, Kenny, Laxalt, Moy, Duffy, and then the younger players, Dembele, Angelini, and Okoflex. They're all leaving. Well, potentially leaving, but there's all interest in all them players. And it only leaves us with a spine in the squad. Well, as you alluded to, this rebuild could be too big.
I mean, I think we're under no illusions that the rebuild is going to be massive, and there's probably going to be a lot of people leaving the club. Absolutely. I don't think it might be to the extent you've mentioned. I think we still hold the cards in terms of some of these guys, in terms of their contracts. We're not under any obligation to sell them unless the money's absolutely phenomenal. Ayer for 8 million, for example, is ridiculous, and would just be wouldn't even entertain that. He's only just came into the club. He's still under contract. I'd imagine Celtic as a club want to recoup the money that they've made off, rather that they spent on him, and then some. I don't know if there's any clauses tied to that either. Edwards is very likely we're going to see him leaving. I mean, the rebuilding job's going to be, and Cham as well. By the looks at it, he's not got a club to go to because I don't think Marseille want him. So I mean, it really depends on who else is going to follow up interest in Cham. I imagine he's probably got some clubs that will be sniffing about, but I mean, it really comes down to who actually wants to be there, who's going to fight for a place in the team, play for the jersey. But in order for us to, I mean, again, everything's speculation at the minute. We're all just assuming the absolute worst in terms of all these guys. And until a manager comes in and the place can start to settle down a bit and he's had a chat with these guys one-on-one, which is exactly why you need an Eddie Howe or a Roy Keane to sit with the guys, let them know what his vision is, where he's going with the club, what he wants to do, so that they can buy into it. And that's the kind of guy you need to come through and take control of the team. And until we've got somebody in place who can do that, whether they do that or not, it's another thing. But until we've got a manager in place, something concrete, and we can start to stabilise a bit and get things in motion, I don't think we're going to. Every player on that team is going to be linked away.
Yeah, it's a hard one. The reason why I brought up them players as well, John, for me, they're very obvious names that could leave. The likes of Ayer, Rodriguez, Christie. He wants to go down England. It's pretty obvious. His head's massive, and it gets pointed out to me every podcast that always mentions Christie, but I just don't want him in the team no more.
I didn't.
And then
notice
Edward, and then Edward, Ayeti. That's a question marks, and just touched upon one name that sticks out to me. I'll go to you, Ross, for this. Do you think this is Lee Griffiths' last season at Celtic?
I think it is. I think he'll be going. I've spoken to you about this in a previous podcast. I mean, look at the rumour is that there's an opportunity for him to go to Aberdeen. I think that would be a perfect fit for him. I really like if Edward goes. I'm loath to say I like sell Griffiths, but he's bringing nothing to the table. We've said it before. Like if Griffiths was fully fit, his head was right, then he stays at Celtic all day long. He's got still got so much to offer us. But the Lee Griffiths right now offers us nothing. And for me, if he's going to go forward as the Lee Griffiths we've had for the past year and a half, maybe 2 years, then his time's up. But if he comes back, he gets his head down. I mean, I touched on it as well. We've got the Euros in the summer, and he is nowhere near the Scotland squad. Like, how no, Lee? Like, what are you doing? You're absolutely pissing the latter years of your career away. and it's so sad to see. And you're at a massive club like Celtic, where you've still got the ability and loads to offer, but you're just not showing it, and it's a shame. I really feel for the guy so much, because it's I've got no more words. Actually, it's so annoying. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Aye.
how I want him to be at Celtic. I think he's absolutely the best finisher in the league on his day. Even on his day, he just knows he's came on numerous times. No fit this season, but bang, there's the goals and there's the ball in the net. Lee Griffiths, it's what he does, but he's just no. I don't think a new manager's got to come in and put up with what he's been doing the last wee while. So Aberdeen is a good opportunity for him, and to work alongside Scott Brown, who, well, I was going to say might be able to oversee him, but he's not been able to do it at Celtic the last couple of years. So, I
Maybe
think
that's what he needs, though. Is like I said, and this comes back down to the. Sorry to cut you off there, Ross, but just to touch on what you said, I agree with everything you've just mentioned about Lee there. I love the guy, best natural finisher in the league, as far as I'm concerned, when he's on his day. But it is hard to watch because we know how talented he is, and like you say, he's pissing the latter years of his career away. He should be fighting. He should be on the park constantly, fit. He should be scoring barrels of goals. He should be in that Scotland setup and helping us in terms of Euros. But again, this comes down to maybe he stagnated because he was working under Lennon for a couple of years, and he's kind of dropped his head a bit. Kennedy's not. He's been part of the same setup. Maybe he's part of the same problem. If you get a new guy in, somebody who can sit like a man manager, somebody who can sit down and talk to you and say, look, where are you? This is what we want to do. Like, do you know what I mean? Somebody who can try to get me pick his head back up.
You could say that about most. Sorry to cut you off this time, but you could say that about most of the players that are probably on our lists for people to go. Like, I mean, look at Tom Rogic. Like, he's on my list here that he could go at the end of the season, but like, he is a absolutely fantastic player on his day, but he's just not showing it this season. And is it down to Lennon's management style? I think it probably is, because you can't go for how the levels that these guys were performing at to what they are now. It's like, I have to admit, I'm one of Lennon's biggest fans. I have been for years, right, as a player. And his first spell at Celtic, I was like, wow, I thought he'd done amazing. But then when he came back after Rodgers, I was one of the ones that was like, it'll be absolutely seamless. He's Mr. Celtic, all the rest of it. And when I think back now, like, see, it goes back to probably the game where I think Celtic won 2-1 on the day against Rangers, but Rangers were down to 10 men and they almost beat us. And it goes back to that day, and I'm like, the writing was on the wall then, when you think it, because they had 10 men and they almost beat us. And the season previous with Rodgers, we went down, I think it was the season previous, we went down to 10 men at Ibrox. Rodgers went 2 up top, changed like the formation, and you had Murray in the sidelines trying to G's players up with no tactical nous whatsoever. And Celtic went on and won that game. And then pretty much the same teams the following year, Celtic, Rangers went down to 10 men and Celtic almost lost it. And I did think at the time, well, not so much at the time, but I've thought about it know that recently, that like the writing was on the wall with that game, and it's like these players have just fell away so much under Lennon's watch. And
I think you're exactly right, and it's not just Lee. Rogic is an example, and Cham's another one. Like how we've seen how good Cham is, and we know what he's capable of. We know how good a player he is. We've seen him at his best, and he's phenomenal. And again, he's another player whose head's dropped. And again, it comes back to this, and this all essentially boils down to negligence on the board's end, because, like you said there, Lennon, I mean, anybody could have come in once Rodgers left and took that Celtic team to that title, because that was still Rodgers' team, ultimately. And you could have put a Wayne in charge of Celtic, who had no idea what they were doing, and they would have won the league. The following year, you started to see signs. Granted, we still won the treble, but, I mean...
Sorry.
No, it's all right. But, I mean, like he says, writing's been on the wall. We kind of all seen it coming. And this year, all years, months and months and months ago, we've seen players' heads drop. We've seen players, they're not playing the way we know they're capable of. That comes down to, I mean, there's definitely something was going on behind the scenes for that to happen. You don't just drop the heads like that overnight.
Aye.
And again, this comes back into, this is where the board dropped the ball, because it's like, if you get a manager in back before Christmas, picks the squad back up, he'd start getting lifted. You're like your Rogic, Incham, Griffiths, all these guys, Eddie and all that. They keep. Do you know what I mean? We'd have probably been fucking firing on all cylinders and getting into the end of the season a completely different picture, and not have to listen to that other mob with their 55 pish. But it's. I mean, it's all. Again, you can speculate and you can say everything at the minute. We just need to focus on the here and now, and things need to change and rapidly.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% in agreement with you. I mean, the way the season's panned out, as you said, players' heads were dropping well before Christmas, and it's a contrast from the likes of Rodgers in charge to Lenny. And Ross, I kind of get where you're coming from as well, that when Lenny came in again, you thought it'd be a seamless transition. But I just wanted them there for that period when Rodgers left to the summer. After that, I didn't think it would have been a good move. And it's kind of been the whole statement that Desmond's put out, where he says they take due diligence and they take time and care. He kind of slaps you back in the face when they appointed Neil Lennon in the charge. Do you know what I mean? And if you look at it as well, touching upon a few international players and stuff, there's a few international players in our team that go away and play magnificent with their national squads, but when they come back to us, they're absolutely abysmal. And you look at the international players that have been on away at the moment. There's Shane Duffy, he's starting tonight against Qatar. Norway, there's Elanusi and Ayer. He had a bad game. I think his manager said that he needs to get a move away from Celtic because he's picked up some bad habits. I mean, Celtic shouldn't be allowing national team managers come out and disrespecting the club like that, for one. And then you have Connor Hazard starting last night against USA for Northern Ireland, conceded a penalty kick. And then Scotland, you got Cal Mack, Jack Hendry, Christie, them types of players. And then again, Edouard scored for France, a penalty kick, and he's their record goal scorer at that level. But, John, in terms of the international setup and stuff, do you think when the players go away, that the pressure just gets lifted automatically and they can show what type of players they are?
No, I don't agree with that at all, no. It's different because when you go at club level, there's a different level of expectation on you, especially at a club like Celtic. But again, you're playing in you're playing under a particular formation, particular tactical style, and then you go away to a national team and everything changes, and it might suit you better. And I think you could sit and argue, like said, Edouard, his goal scoring feats for the under 21s for France. I think he's just became the. I'll give credit to Franny because he's the one that brought it up, but he's France's top goal scorer at that level. Yeah. At under 21s.
Record. Yeah.
Yep. And every time he goes and plays for France under 21s, he's banging goals in. It might be the players that are running about him are at a higher level. They understand him, the type of footballer that he is, the tactics and the formation that they play might suit him better, and the position and role that he's played in that team might suit him better. But then he comes back to the club and everything changes. So there's a lot of different things to take into consideration. I don't think it's an easy thing just to say as it comes down to like pressure and the expectation and stuff like that. I think there's so many different variables.
I get where you're coming from, but the way I look at it is, these players play for Celtic, they're getting paid big money. Why is it a pressure for them to turn up and play like the know they can? Under Rodgers, the tactics, fair enough, you pointed out the tactic side of things, but individual talents should shine through, and the team should come together like that as well. Because Edouard, he plays at the top for for France, and by all accounts, I've watched a few games. It's quite similar to how Celtic play in terms of the setups. So usually a 4-2-3-1, and that's the way Celtic used to play. And even in that position, Edward was he was crap, to be honest, at the start of the season. And
but what you need to take into consideration as well, Stephen, is individual talent's all fine and well, and players need that to play at that kind of level. But it's a team game. You've got 10 other players on the parkway, and you need to be able to have an understanding with them. They need to be on the ball as well, and they need to be you need to rely on them, especially for a striker. You need to rely on them creating space, moving the ball about, getting it to you. If you're having to, because Celtic at the minute playing a lot of possession-based football and they're passing the ball back a lot and it's drawing defenders out, means Eddie has to go out with them so that he's no in an offside position. He has to follow them. So when we start passing back and we're drawing them out, we're pulling him further away as well. And you find more often than not, by the time he gets the ball at his feet, he's 30 odd yards away from the goal, and you're like, that doesn't suit him. He's a striker. So what he tries to do is show his individual skill, and he tries to beat one or two players. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But he always finds himself in a position where he's crowded out, and he's having to spread the ball out again, and you're just back to square one then. And this is where your tactical and your formations come into. You need to have the right setup in the team to complement the players you've got in the team. You can't just. Yeah. This is why when people say, "Oh, it's the players on the park and they're doing their job," they're playing the way they're instructed to play, and this is why it boils down and why the manager's so important, because you need a guy who knows when to make. And we've seen it this season, that making like for like substitutions at the 85th minute. What is that going to solve? Like, you're not doing anything tactically to change anything. You're making like for like substitutions. You're taking a defender off for a defender at the 85th minute when you're doing 1-0. It's pointless, and that the lack of knowledge from a management perspective has been evident this season under Lennon and Kennedy. The decisions they've made have been shocking, and this is why it's so important that you're getting the right guy in the door, somebody who 100%. Understands it. And
I get where you're coming from, because the way I came across that point I made was just because I think good players should be able to play with good players at that level. And yes, we have touched upon individuals playing as individuals, but at the end of the day, if the team's not gelling, you do need that bit of spark from somewhere. And I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in international football. I'll
give you the perfect example, Stephen. Sorry to cut you off again, but look at Messi. I mean, he's widely regarded as probably the greatest player in the world, right? And has been for a number of years. There's no denying how talented he is as a footballer and his ability to play, score goals, create goals out of nothing. I mean, the guy is phenomenal. But then he goes and plays with Argentina and he does nothing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It all lends itself to the players round about you and the way a team's set up and stuff like that. Oh. And it's evident when you go from one team to another how that can change, because you're used to playing one sort of style of football and everything else. And I may be ranting a bit, but it's like
even in the current Barcelona, I'm just saying, even in the current Barcelona team, he's not. I mean, I know he's obviously a bit older now than what he was when he played alongside Xavi and Iniesta and that. But in the current Barcelona team, he's not as effective as what he was when he was playing alongside all they guys.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to bring Messi down by any manner of means, but they made him an even better player than what he was, because the things they done on the pitch allowed him to go and express himself and do what he done on the pitch. So it is a team game, and like Edward is an absolutely outstanding player, but the team round about him are not playing to his strengths, and they're not being coached right, and they're not playing the. Well, like we've said it before, they're shoehorning guys into a midfield like 3 number 10s. It's not working, and there's too much. I've said it before. It's on front of the defence, like John said. Edward's having to come short all the time. I know he does like to come short and link up the play, but he's been playing like up front himself. So who's he linked up with? Because there's nobody running beyond him when he picks up the ball.
Yeah. No, so I totally get it, but. I mean, just touching upon the Celtic internationals, I don't want to go too far off that subject, but I mean, Ross, in your opinion, because John's absolutely killed me in my opinion, but I want to hear your opinion. do you think there's a difference between the Celtic players who go away for international duty to highly perform for Celtic Football Club?
I don't want to agree with John because I feel like everybody's disagreeing with you tonight, Stephen. But I kind of
it's natural. It's natural.
I'm siding with John here. I mean, well, you look at Christie. He's been, on the most part, rubbish for Celtic this season, and he played for Scotland on Sunday night, and he played in the exact same manner as what he has for Celtic. His shooting was wild. He just was so he was so ineffective. But I sort of defend him a wee bit because for the most part of the season he has played out of position. He's not a right midfielder, nowhere near it. He's a number 10 or middle of the park, just going beyond the sitting midfielder. But he has been played out of position. But I mean, he can be played out of positions, but still be able to like kick the ball and shoot and tackle and run. And he's. I think Christie has got some great ability. And a couple of years ago, his work rate was like the best I've seen in a long time for any Celtic player. It was phenomenal. But right now, he's going through a really, really bad period, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel for the guy. I feel sorry for him. I know you always say he's got a massive head. I don't know if he's got a massive head, but there's maybe the wrong people round about him telling him he's this and he's that, and he's believing it.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's worthy of that move down to England. I think he thinks he's going to go down to England and rip it up and go to like a fucking Arsenal or something, following the footsteps of Tierney, when he's not even in the same stratosphere as Tierney. You know what I mean? He's just. I don't think he's got a massive head, but he's believing the shite that he's getting told off of people round about.
No, I totally get what you mean. I'll just give me a wee second. I'm just making a note here. Never bring international football up again during the podcast. I have that marked down so I know for next time. Never ever ever talk about it. But the way I just worded that was, sometimes I look at matches, especially Edward. I'm not singling him out or anything. He just, for me, performs differently when he's with France. You see him running behind and stuff. But yeah, I mean, guys, it's all about different opinions. You agree with each other. I'm with myself in this one as I was last week. I think it's become the norm in this podcast, me to be by myself. But
no, but see,
I mean,
sorry to cut in, Stephen, but you're saying there like Edward performs better with country and he does at club level, but like to sort of help you a wee bit here, if you like, would you have said that like a year ago or 2 years ago when Edward was performing excellent for Celtic and playing in a very good team and then going to France and playing in another very good team? He's just playing a shit team.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like Celtic this season are absolutely pathetic. The team has just went to shit, and the way I was trying to come across was when players go away to international football, it's like a new lease of life. And granted, Christie and stuff, he did perform badly for Scotland, but the likes of Edward, players like that, and Conor Hazard to a certain extent, they've got a new breed of confidence when they go away. Conor Hazard actually came out and said if he's not Celtic number one next season, he's going to consider moving elsewhere. And that's just him after signing a new 2-year deal. So he's pretty confident in his own ability. But, I mean, I like the fact that you guys disagree with me. That's what I want. I don't want people disagree with me for the sake of it. I like disagreements within the show. I think it makes it for a good debate. But, yeah, that brings it to the end of that segment. I mean, in terms of what we talked about, we've covered a lot of things. And we're going to move on to the quiz. Now, this is hopefully where I can get John back and make him lose 5 on the bounce. John, how would you feel?
I don't really care. It's all a good laugh.
That's the Rangers fans used to say when we were winning all the times.
I'll be running laps if I get this.
But yeah, it's
but
just
if I do recall,
format.
it was you, Ross, last time I was up against where I got absolutely done. So.
Well, I wasn't going to bring that up just in case it all goes tits up here, Ken.
It's just the same format as always, guys. There's 5 questions. First, the answers, whatever quickness, or whoever gets the 5 quickness as well. So, are you ready, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Aye, sure go.
No worries. So, the first question is, what is the Celtic transfer fee record received? So, the highest transfer fee they've received.
25 million for
25 million.
John got there first.
Yeah.
Right. What nationality was Jos Valheren?
Belgian.
That's 1-8. That's 1-8, no problem. Celtic signed Didier Gat from which club?
Race Rover. Hibs.
Oh, I'll give that to Ross. I heard you first, Ross.
Aye.
What?
I got
Yeah,
it
I
completely wrong anyway. I thought we were going for a
Couldn't say
French
the
club.
right answer.
What nationality was Bobo Balde?
Guinean.
Oh, this is the tiebreak question here. Name all 3 members of the Three Amigos.
Di Canio, Cadetti, and
Cadet,
Hoydonk.
Daniel Van Hooydonk.
John, you've won. You've redeemed yourself. You've got it back. That's 4-1. Well done, John.
I don't
Oh,
care.
Well done.
Well done, man. That was a good one. I thought I want to keep the quiz.
This down in the group chat.
Make sure you delete the photos I sent you of what questions I'm going to ask, just in case there's an inquest. But yeah, guys, thanks for coming on, John. It was great to have you back again, and Ross yourself. I thought it was great crack, and I like the whole disagreement side of things. I don't want people to agree with each other just for the sake of it being on a podcast, and it makes for good listening. If you guys enjoyed it,
I love it, mate.
Brilliant. I love it.
No problem. And on Friday, we'll have another special guest coming on, Colin Watt. I did the football insomniac with him on Celtic State of Mind, so he's going to be on the show. That's something to look forward to. So until Friday, when we speak again, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.